A single dad
Here,
rents a
let me
room
help
to
you
a
with
college
that.
girl, not knowing
It's all
she's a
set up
billionaire's
now.
daughter. The little
Thanks, that's
farmhouse
really
had always
helpful.
been quiet, almost painfully so, since the day Rowan Hale stood alone in its kitchen, staring at an empty high chair he no longer needed. Grief changes the sound of a home. It makes floorboards creak differently. It makes clocks tick louder. It makes silence feel heavier. Rowan never talked about his wife's accident, never explained to anyone how deeply it hollowed him out inside. Instead, he just focused on raising his 6-year-old daughter, Meadow, the only bright thing left in his world. But bills kept piling up, repairs on the house worsened by the week, and Rowan's job at the local repair shop barely stretched far enough. So, when he posted a spare room for rent, he didn't expect much. He certainly didn't expect her. A girl with quiet eyes, carrying one worn suitcase, dressed too simply for someone with that kind of posture, the kind that came from years of private tutors, ballroom etiquette, and being told to sit up straight for the camera. He didn't know her name would change his life. If you believe kindness and second chances can still change the world, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Chronicles. Your support truly helps these stories reach more hearts. Her name was Celeste Ward, a college freshman studying anthropology at the local university. The reason she needed a room was unclear. She said campus housing was full, but something in her tone hinted at something deeper, like she was running from something rather than searching for convenience. Rowan didn't pry. He wasn't the type to dig into someone's pain. He simply cleaned the room, fixed the window latches, and told her she was welcome to move in any time. Celeste smiled softly, almost like no one had offered her kindness in a long time. Meadow adored Celeste instantly. Maybe children are better at reading souls. Meadow would sit with Celeste while doing homework, tell her stories about her school day, or ask her to brush her hair before bed. Sometimes Rowan would watch them from the doorway, reminded of a warmth he thought he had lost when he lost his wife. Celeste had a gentle way of existing. She cooked breakfast when she didn't have early classes, wiped down the counter without being asked, left encouraging notes for Meadow's school tests, and sat outside with Rowan in the evenings when the air was quiet and pale gold. Yet there was always a distance in her eyes, like she was looking over her shoulder at something she tried to escape. Rowan didn't know that families like Celeste's couldn't be escaped easily. Her father was Victor Ward, the billionaire venture magnate whose face appeared on magazine covers and international news broadcasts. Ward Enterprises owned tech companies, global shipping lines, real estate towers, and entire digital marketplaces. Celeste was his only daughter and heir. Yet the world didn't know her name because her father kept her hidden from public life, not to protect her, but to control her. Celeste knew the value of kindness because she had rarely been shown any. She had been raised in a mansion large enough to echo when she cried, surrounded by staff who were paid to care but never allowed to love. When she was 16, her mother passed away from a sudden illness, and Celeste realized that even grief was not something her father considered real unless it affected public image. So she ran. Not loudly, not dramatically. She simply applied to a small-town university without her father's involvement and left with only what she could carry. Money was never the problem. Emotion was. Life settled into a rhythm at the farmhouse. Rowan woke early, Celeste studied late, Meadow filled the space in between with laughter that slowly stitched Rowan back together. They shared meals. They shared ordinary days. And sometimes ordinary is the most healing thing in the world. Yet outside their little home, life was not so gentle. Rowan had overdue notices from the bank, the roof had started leaking badly enough to stain the living room ceiling, and his truck needed repairs he couldn't afford. He tried to keep it all quiet, but Celeste noticed. One rainy afternoon, she found him sitting at the kitchen table staring at a final notice, his hands pressed to his forehead. Celeste didn't speak, didn't offer false comfort. She simply placed a warm mug of tea in front of him and sat beside him. He didn't look at her, but somehow her presence made the weight feel a little less crushing. Celeste felt helpless. She could fix everything. She could pay off the mortgage, the repairs, the debts. She could change Rowan's life overnight. But doing so would reveal who she truly was, and she feared that once he knew, the softness in his eyes would turn into awe, or caution, or distance. She didn't want to be seen as a fortune. She wanted to be cherished as a person, but secrets don't stay hidden forever. One afternoon, while Celeste was at class, a sleek black car pulled into the driveway. A driver opened the back door and Victor Ward stepped out. He carried power the way storms carry thunder, like it followed him wherever he went. He walked straight to Rowan, who had been repairing a fence post. Victor informed Rowan that he was taking his daughter home and that Rowan would be compensated generously for any inconvenience caused. He didn't ask. He commanded. Rowan, confused and cautious, said quietly that Celeste was free to choose her own life. Victor laughed. A cold, hollow sound. He explained who he was, what influence he held, how impossible it would be to oppose him. Celeste arrived in time to hear the tail end. Her face went white. She looked at Rowan, tears forming fast but held back by dignity learned through restraint. Rowan didn't flinch when he saw her expression. He didn't step back. Instead, he placed a hand on Meadow's shoulder and stood firm. He told Victor, voice steady and unshakable, that Celeste was not property. And if she wanted to stay, she would. Victor stared at Rowan with disbelief, as if he had never been denied anything in his life. Then he drove away, silent and seething. Celeste broke. Not loudly, but in quiet sobs that shook her as Rowan gently brought her inside. She confessed everything. Her upbringing, her loneliness, her escape, her fear of losing the only peace she had ever known. Rowan listened without judgment. He told her that pain does not care about wealth. Pain is pain. And she didn't know anyone proof of her suffering to be allowed to heal. From that day forward, Celeste let herself belong to the farmhouse family. Truly belong. She laughed freely. She helped Rowan rebuild the roof, Meadow plant a garden of wildflowers, and spent sunsets with Rowan on the porch steps as cicadas hummed in the distance. Then came the storm. A real one this time. A hurricane-level windstorm tore through the countryside in early autumn. Rowan was at the repair shop when power went out, the sky turned the color of bruises, and phone lines dropped. He raced home, terrified. When he arrived, a fallen tree had crushed the porch roof and shattered the front windows. Celeste had shielded Meadow in the hallway, wrapping her arms around her, keeping her safe until Rowan burst in and pulled them both close. The storm passed, but the damage was massive. The house was unlivable. Rowan stood outside, staring at the wreckage, despair swallowing him whole. Celeste watched him, and in that moment, she made a decision. She called her father. She told him she wasn't coming home. But she needed the house repaired. Not for herself. For Rowan and Meadow. She said she would meet him on her terms and her terms alone. Victor agreed, not because of love, but because control only works when the controlled still care about the outcome. Celeste no longer did. The repairs were done in days, not months. The house was not only restored but strengthened. Victor visited once during reconstruction. He saw Celeste laughing with Meadow, Rowan looking at her with genuine respect and softness. For the first time, Victor understood something money had never given him. His daughter had found something real. He left without saying a word. By winter, the farmhouse felt alive again. Warm. Loved. Celeste continued school. Rowan continued working. Meadow continued growing. Yet now, their lives were intertwined not by circumstance, but by choice. And sometimes, the family you create means more than the one you were born into. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Chronicles. Your engagement helps these emotional stories reach more people who may need them.